second start or a third start. So here we go. We are going to begin our time today by introducing ourselves through a brief version of our land stories practice. So I'll just jump right into that. My name is Ollie, and I am a white Ashkenazi trans-disabled Jew. And today I have a sparkly black shirt on and a dangly earring and a fresh haircut and a little knife necklace. And I'm really smiling because I'm very happy to be here. And I come from people whose connection with land was severed by fear of annihilation and assimilation into whiteness. My people came from Minsk, Pinsk, the Pale of Settlement, to a swollen sea of tenements on the Lower East Side. And they spoke Russian, Yiddish, and the language of our prayers. And by the time I was born, the Liebermans, Pazetskis, Schwartz, and Teitelbaum had almost completely forgotten that we come from the earth and to dust we shall return. Our world was working in scrapyards, grocery stores, and cigar stands. And when I was a child, by the time I made it into this world, my parents brought me to engage with the natural world, not in necessarily a relationship of mutual respect, but one of escapist fantasies and possession or desire or dreams of possession. And after 3 generations in the cityscape of the Lower East Side of Manhattan, we did not know how to be with land. My family's time outside was in a state of neo-colonial exploration. The space was ours to discover and then leave behind. When I touch the ground now on Nipmuc and Pecumtuck land, where I live in so-called Massachusetts, the land of the heart of colonization in North America in many ways, I am in a slow lesson about how to be with the more than human world through my ancestors. When I grate garlic, fork potatoes, converse with the sky, I am receiving a shared muscle memory. I am undoing the myth that separation from the divine and all her creations will keep me safe. Megan, I pass it over for you to share of your land story for today.
Well, before I do that, I want to say thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
It's an honor to be in this work alongside you, and it feels like such a gift for you to share your story with me and all of us today. Thank you.
Love you, friend.
My name is Megan. I go by she and her and hers are my pronouns. I am a Black woman who lives in Harlem. I am also wearing a little knife necklace today and a matching color scheme with Ollie, light pinks and purples with a little gothic, like black and brown undertones. I have light brown skin and dark brown curly hair that's kind of half up today. And in the background, you can see my home office with some chart paper and some artwork and some curtains that I hung up myself, and I'm very proud of. I am joining you from this home office in Harlem, and I'm about 7 years into the process of building a relationship with the ecosystem here on the island of Mannahatta, the ancestral land of the Lenape people, many of whom currently live in the Midwest, which is where I was born and raised. I grew up on the shores of Lake Michigan, and I miss Lake Michigan very much. She is my mother in many senses of that word. Part of that process of homemaking in this place has been seeking and participating in homemaking with people, in addition to plants and animals, and in particular, other lefty Jews. Namely, that's through the organization JFREJ, Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. And in that work, I'm a part of a community of people that's practicing every day, hopefully a little bit better than the day before, solidarity with Palestine through local efforts. But the piece of my land story that I want to focus on and share with you all today is around my last name, Madison, because that piece of my story and connection to land highlights some themes around reproductive justice and bodily autonomy that are really up for me right now in the current political context. it's important for me to name that that story is not an immigration story. My ancestors, my people, were kidnapped and brought to this place against our will. And for many generations, my people and their bodies were controlled and surveilled and used as sites of reproduction 24/7. So this current moment doesn't feel new to me in my bones. The grief feels old and unsurprising. In particular, what's interesting, my last name is Madison, and we don't know for sure because part of that kidnapping process means I don't actually know where in Africa many of my ancestors were taken from. But I do have a little bit of information about their story here in this place on Turtle Island. My last name Madison is likely from James Madison, one of the founding fathers, a writer of the Federalist Papers, one of the dudes who was like, hey, everybody, let's come to Philly and have a big meeting and we'll call it the Constitutional Convention and we'll write some new agreements, some new community agreements about how we're going to be together in this new thing we're creating called the United States of America. So as he was actively participating in that colonial project, he was also holding in bondage a couple hundred people, including my ancestors. At the time, people knew enslavement wasn't cool, and there's lots of abolitionist organizing happening. And so the story goes, the oral history goes that there were abolitionist organizers who convinced James Madison that it's not going to look good on your legacy if you held enslaved people like your whole life. So how about you write in your will that you'll let people go when you die? And so supposedly there was some will that James Madison let everybody go, but that's not the will that Dolly Madison, his wife, appeared the next day after he died and said that she had. She said, no, I have a will. And in this will, it says all these people belong to me now. But she was also like, I'm just a little scared white lady. And this is like 200 Black people. And they like already poisoned like James Madison's grandpa. And so like, I don't feel safe. And so she split up all of those families. And including some of my ancestors, and we had to walk alongside, we were sold to the Maxwell family, who was like, oh, this Civil War thing's not looking good for slavery. It's kind of the cryptocurrency era of the time. They were like, we got to start this new economy. We're going to go to Texas and take some stolen land there and like see if we can ride this wave. And so they marched my ancestors alongside their stagecoach from Virginia to Texas. That same generation, actually, the Civil War ended. It took a couple years, but eventually armed soldiers from the North came down and said, like, no, for real, the Civil War ended and you all lost. These people are free. And that was Juneteenth, which was a very exciting time. I can only imagine what it was like to be generations and generations and generations into an enslavement system and then all of a sudden learn that you're free. And there was not a ton of opportunity. So my ancestors worked a couple more generations as sharecroppers on that same land in Texas that I've been to and have a relationship with in this time. And then a couple generations later, actually through serving in the US military, my grandfather was one of the few African-Americans to be able to use the GI Bill to get a degree from Howard University. And that's kind of my family's great migration story, leaving Texas, moving up to DC, and then into Michigan, where my white mom and my Black dad met and fell in love when my dad delivered pizza to my mom's college dorm room at Kalamazoo College. So those are some of the lands that I'm connected to and some of the stories that are up for me right now. I don't know all of you. I know some of you, but many of you I don't know. I don't know how you're doing right now and what is up for you. And I don't know what you need in terms of access needs, but we do really care, Ollie and I and Angelique. So we want to give you a content heads up. We're going to talk about stuff like genocide and kidnapping and land and lots of hard stuff. So know that. And we respect whatever choices you need to make about how to engage in that content because it can bring up some big stuff. There is Zoom captioning, live closed captioning enabled. You go down to the bottom and you click on that. And if you're having any trouble accessing the Zoom captioning, you can message Angelique and they can help you out. I also want to acknowledge we did not request ASL or other language interpretation in time to have that for today's session. So I just want to acknowledge that limits access to many people in our community and also deprives this little pop-up community access to the wisdom and insights of many valuable members of the AMC community and of our movements. And we're committed to not making that mistake again in the future. We're going to do our best. We have a slideshow today, and we'll do our best to do a visual description of those slides. It's a new practice for us, so this is an explicit invitation or request for you all to help us in feedback and accountability so we can get better at that practice. And if you have any additional accessibility needs that you do feel comfortable naming, please let us know in any way that works for you. You can share it in the chat. You can unmute and just say, hey, Megan, Ollie, you're talking too fast, slow down. Or DM us or send a pigeon, my window's open. Whatever way works for you to communicate with us. We just want to know what your needs are so we can collaborate to see if we can meet some of them. So that's me and Ollie and a little bit about accessibility needs. I think maybe I should pass it to Ollie and Ollie can tell us about what is Linke Fligl.
Thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah.
For that wonderful welcoming into the space and for sharing your story with us. Is it possible to get the slideshow back? Oh, awesome. Tech is the hardest job, truly. Okay, and one more slide. Yay. We said all those wonderful things. Again, reminder to just be here as you need to be, engage as you need to. And let's go to the next slide. Awesome. So we just want to share a little bit about the project that we are here on behalf of today. Linke Fligl, which means left wing in Yiddish. We have some other folks from our crew here today, Margot and Hannah, who are also major folks developing all that we're going to share, all the thoughts that we're going to share with you. But a little bit about our project. The land that we tend and have a relationship with is in so-called Millerton, New York, on Schaghticoke land, which means the mingling of waters. Many folks who were forced to migrate came together, and that is part of why that is the name that is those folks were using in that place and still use. And we are a queer Jewish land and cultural reclamation project, and we work at the intersection of land tradition, healing, and justice. And Megan's going to tell us what we're going to do with the rest of our time.
Dun, dun, dun. Thank you, Kat, in the chat for supporting with image descriptions.
Oh yeah, I already forgot. Thank you.
It takes practice. So on this next slide, there's a photo of two hands digging in the dirt. And on the left-hand side, a little outline of our plan for how we're going to spend the time today. We're going to talk a little bit about what we call land stories, what Ollie and I modeled at the opening of today's session. Then we'll talk a little bit about LF, that's our acronym for Linke Fligl, our theory of accountable relationship to land. And we'll give you all an opportunity to try it on, see what it feels like to talk about your own land story. All as a setup to then watching a movie. We made a movie about Linke Fligl and we want to share it with you, and then we want to talk about it. So we'll watch the movie. It's about 11 minutes long, and then hopefully we'll have a good chunk of time to debrief together. And then we'll close out with a land prayer. Sound good?
Yes. What I'll add is I'll read from the chat the image description that Kat gave, which was that the slide right before the one now. Was a colorful tablecloth with garlic on it and a piece of wood that read, "We are so glad you are here." And then this one has somebody's hands digging in dirt next to the flow of the workshop text that was read out loud.
Thank you. All right, so land stories. The big question is like, why storytelling? And there's probably 1,000,001 reasons. Here's what we've come up with so far. I'm reading the text off the slide. Many of us have oral traditions of sharing knowledge. Also land, human, and animal knowledges. We also know that knowledge comes through relationship, and relationships are built through storytelling. Storytelling relies on collective memory and nonlinear narratives. It connects our knowledge to the sacred, and we look towards Native peoples as the keepers of land stories. What else? Maybe this is a good opportunity to switch off our like spotlights and turn into gallery view. That way we can see one another and maybe kind of feel like we're in a conference room together in Detroit. What else do stories do? And why do you think it might be important to use stories and storytelling to heal our relationships with land? Any ideas?
I'll share. My name's Kat. Stories remind us of what's important.
I think stories make us pay attention, and sometimes attention is prayer, you know?
Mm-hmm. Keep it coming.
This is Natalie. Storytelling is relational. You have to like think about the listeners too when you're telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Ed. I find that sometimes when I tell stories, I discover things about myself or about the story that I didn't know previously. So it's a way of learning myself. Thank you.
I feel like as a white settler colonial person on this land, like the stories are a good way for me to like learn how to reclaim traditions that have been lost to like spiritual and cultural disassociation, like of my ancestors and people that I've descended from.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll have more chances for you to jump in, and I see some really brilliant things in the chat here too. And Omi, if you want to bring back the slides, we're going to now move to that second part of that slide.
I don't know why it removes the second column in the slide when I maximize it. So let me try this for now.
Sure.
Is that visible?
Sure. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So as a Jewish project, Jewish cultural reclamation project, we wanted to center and ground in the role of storytelling in Judaism, which many of you probably will have other amazing things to add when we think about how storytelling shows up in Judaism too. And thanks to Hannah from our team for really fleshing out this column with me when we did this work in the past. But you know, in Jewish culture, on our holy day on Shabbat, we stand up and we praise this long giant scroll made of animal skin, and we have very intricate ways in which we approach that scroll, read from it, and bless it, and we get to be blessed by it every week. And this is the Torah, right, which Christians call the Old Testament. And for us, this is a really like fascinating fantastical, beautiful, complicated, sometimes frustrating, non-linear origin story for our people. And we get to be with that text all the time, but also in a ritual way every week on Shabbat. So there is storytelling at the heart of our tradition. And we have also like this proactive commandment, the higata levinha, like you must tell your children. And we interpret that as a way of saying that we have to pass on our stories over generations. And there's so many ways that we do that. We do that by listening to Torah. We do that by praying and showing each other how to pray and teaching young folks how to carry on our tradition. And our prayers also contain lots of stories, and we are supposed to be praying 3 times a day. So there's so many ways that little fragments of our story show up in our prayer and our verbalization too of our cultural practices. And we also have Talmud, which is like commentary that's helping us understand the world in a more law written way, but that's also like thought through by thinking about many of these stories from the Torah, and also just other Jewish cultural things that we're thinking about. There's the Haggadah, which is the story of like exile to liberation in Egypt when Jewish folks were enslaved, which is also just like a long story, which we come together and have a feast meal, and we like spend time with this story. There's Psalms, the book of Psalms, which is also just like beautiful testaments to different important stories in our culture. So if other folks now want to unleash the floodgates out louder in the chat of other ways that you see storytelling in Judaism, this is just a tiny glimpse. So feel free to share.
Yeah, and if Judaism isn't your practice or your tradition, how else is storytelling used in your tradition?
Thank you, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Jokes, everyday stories from elders. More jokes, love it. Family reunions, songs, pottery. Prayer. Ways many people play Jewish geography, as complicated as that practice is, it is still very much a story of who we are and how we are connected and what a normal Jewish experience is. Every time you tell a story, it evokes to be true for that time, which keeps it vital. Food, campfires, language, learning Yiddish vocabulary has taught me a lot about culture. Grudges, question mark.
Haman, boo!
In traditional communities that keep a gamach, it is a living story of how we show up for each other. Okay, so much to say, but I'm seeing the time. Keep the chat flowing, and we are going to go into thinking about land stories practice on the next slide. Ooh, we get a slideshow again. Thank you. Yeah, so as a Jewish cultural project, we are using or thinking about stories as a Jewish diasporic tool to reclaim our relationship with land, loss, and healing. So, you know, me and Megan have different stories and we told them in different ways, but as you could see from our brief sharing, there are so many ways to tell our stories of land as Jewish folks. And we're really excited to share this practice with other people and the ways that we can all think about cultural reclamation and storytelling as a tool to connect us to our people's lands. Let's go to the next slide. So a little bit about our specific theory or way of thinking about accountable land relationships through storytelling. Just to share that this is sort of a living teaching that we've created by spending time on the land at Linke Fligl, by being in Jewish community, through the conversations and community that have happened there. So there are many people who have added and helped us get to this point where we created this neat little diagram for you today. And actually, if you will go forward on this slide, there's a few other little images that will pop up. So for us, we think about our relationship to land where we are, the place that we live or call home at this moment, the histories, the ecology of that place, and our relationship to like our migration story, the lands that our peoples come from, their diasporic journeys and relationship to our homelands and their homelands. And then lastly, as Jewish folks, we think about a third circle, thinking about Israel-Palestine, or what we call like the imagined land of Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, our relationship to this sacred, historical, and imagined space, and also now to the nation state of Israel or occupied Palestine. So for us, we think that as Jewish folks, we have a relationship, whether we are an active relationship, whether we're able to know the answers to these questions or not, the many different ways we could answer them, and all the complicated emotions and histories that come with it, we believe that we have a relationship, each of us, to these three bubbles as Jewish folks. And we are really excited in this workshop for people to think about what bubbles make sense for you, for the history of your peoples, for the stories and legacies of colonialism, active or in the past, that your peoples are grappling with. Maybe that third bubble is not Israel-Palestine, it's another place, or maybe there's 5 bubbles. You know, the sky's the limit with this type of imagining. And we just want you to feel like this is a tool that you can use towards your own healing and your own relationship with land and your own culture, or cultures, whatever those are. So Megan's going to take us into an activity.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Allie. I'm feeling grateful in this moment for all of the thinking and practice that went into being able to like synthesize the Linke Fligl project on one slide. For those who need a visual description, on the slide, we see a Venn diagram with 3 overlapping circles, one labeled lands where you are, the second labeled Israel-Palestine, and the third labeled migration stories or lands you come from. So Ali and I have both had individual time and small group time to do some reflection about how would we fill in those 3 circles for us. And that's what informed our stories that we told at the beginning of this session. So now we want to give you all a chance to practice that, knowing it takes time. Some of you are like, oh, I have a PhD in this. This is very easy. I'm ready to, have the mic and share with the whole group. Some of us are probably like, whoa, I've never thought about this before. I think I just need to sit still and feel all the big feelings that are coming up when confronted with this invitation. Wherever you're at is great, but we want to give you about 3 minutes of independent time to do some independent work and reflection. That might mean dancing, that might mean wiggling, that might mean journaling, that might mean doodling, whatever you want to deepen your own story, I would recommend picking one circle to start with because you only have 3 minutes. So maybe pick a circle and do your thing for 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and debrief. Does anyone have any questions about the instructions? Everybody asks, how will we know when to come back together? Maybe Omi, would you be willing to play another song from that playlist? And when that song ends, we'll know that it's time to come back together. How about we play Breathe? Yeah. Thank you. Enjoy your independent time, everybody. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Breathe in, breathe, breathe out. Breathe, breathe, breathe in, breathe, breathe out. Let it go, 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 let it go.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to our shared space. Hope that activity felt nourishing in some way, and also it can bring up a lot on so many levels. So we just wanted to give you the opportunity to share in a pair, share with someone else about what that was like. And if you're like, I really don't want to do that, I just want to be with myself, that is totally real. And you can stay with us in this room. And if not, we'll just spend about 5 minutes in pairs whenever Omi is able to get us there. And there is, open space for you to share whatever's coming up.
Actually, Omi, I'm on it. I think I opened it.
Wow, go team.
Mhm.
Yep, I had just made them and then all of a sudden it opened it for us. Nice. That's what co-hosting allows. Magic.
Mhm.
Megan, we're somehow magically on time.
I know. There's a lot of magic working with us today. The matching outfits.
All right, so if Katie is staying in the main room, who was Katie's partner? Maybe we can put them somewhere else. Let's see, there are some people who have not matched yet.
Right.
Let's see. Okay, so yeah, we have some people who are not. So let's see. I can close those rooms. Let's see, Naomi, okay. Okay. After this settles for a second, we can move folks.
Yeah, just so nobody's alone. Good idea.
Let me close this room if I can. Okay. 0, 0. Oh, people are moving. Okay. 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2. Okay. It looks like everyone's in there. Do you want to send an instruction to the breakout rooms about how much time? I don't think we.
I think they've got one of those countdown clocks, so they might be okay on time.
Okay. All right. It shows, 3 minutes left. Okay.
That's very thoughtful, though. People are often like, what am I supposed to do again? And how long do I have?
Mm-hmm. And if they can't find a way to open the chat, it's hard sometimes to find the instruction.
Yes. Yep. For everybody who chose to stay in the main room, how are y'all doing? Do you need anything?
This has been really lovely and like very chill. So thank you.
Yay, thank you for that feedback. Thanks, Bree. Christiana, how can we support you? I see you in the chat. Feel free to unmute or write into the chat or DM me.
Oh, hi. Oh, I'm I'm fine. I just joined the session a little late. So I I saw that one image and was listening to the song, but if you want to give any context, I know I'm late, so you don't have to re-explain for me, but it was beautiful anyways.
No such thing as late. You're right on time, and we're very happy that you're here. I'm glad it's feeling nourishing.
Thank you.
And next, we're going to get to watch the movie, which is what I'm very excited about.
Is this the like world premiere?
I think it might be. Is it, Ollie? Is this the world premiere? quite dramatic and exciting. Yes, definitely celebration horn. What is that actually? I know it stands for celebration, but like, what is that called? A cone with confetti that comes out of it.
Zoom calls it the ta-da.
Yeah, that sounds right. I like that. Thank you,
And also,
Naomi.
like, how do you know that?
I just like put my cursor over it and it
Oh.
said ta-da.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Do they exist like in physical form? Is there some sort of celebration like cone that sprays glitter?
Like a party horn.
A party horn. Yes.
Like, do you want to close the breakout rooms?
I think it's time.
All right. They have a minute warning, looks like.
Cool. Where does one get a party horn?
We have party supply stores here. You could make them. I think they're like a variation on the ones that have a rolled up piece of paper that's sort of folded so it's spring loaded. They go bzzz, you know. Except the confetti comes out. I guess sort of like a cracker that has confetti or a cascarone, something like that.
Cool.
But no, actually, when you said that, I was like, you know, I haven't seen any around in the past decade, I would imagine.
Yeah. It just makes me think about like symbols, you know, like if I were to draw a symbol for a phone, it would probably be like a handheld phone, you know?
Absolutely. Well, in
But, like,
ASL, people
yeah.
talk about what do you gesture, and this was phone for a while, but you ask babies and they do this.
Yeah. Right. That makes so much sense. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Would you like to debrief a little, Ollie, or is that me? I forget.
All you.
All right, so I'm curious, before we transition from these conversations to watching the film, what came up for you all in those conversations or in your personal reflection? In particular, what questions are coming up for you? That might be a good way of prepping for watching the movie.
This isn't like a question, but we were talking a lot about like smell and how like different ecosystems and biomes and like combinations of like plants and animals have like really deep smell memory and like smell relation, and they it's different than like cities, which kind of a lot of times smell pretty similarly.
Hot garbage. That smell. Thank you, Elijah. That's so real. What else? I see Anne in the chat wrote, which pieces of my family story do I know and why? Yep. Ollie wrote water. Mm-hmm.
Do we just come off mute if we want to share?
Go for it, Kat. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, folks. I'm Kat, she, her. I'm currently in Detroit, but from the West Coast. This is my first response was to the Israel-Palestine. My partner's nodding at me. Israel-Palestine Circle. I've been doing solidarity work with Palestinians for a while, and so even seeing it labeled as such makes me kind of bristle. And I'm curious about relationship, like how this community in this space, which in some ways I'm familiar with, in some ways I'm really new to, understand decolonization and connect any decolonial work we might do on Turtle Island with decolonial work in Palestine. Feel like fired up and terrified of having more intentional conversations about Zionism. So that's what's up for me.
I love it. Thank you. What else? We have time for one or two more shares before we watch the film. Or maybe we're ready to just watch it. When I said that, I saw a couple people smirk. So I'm going to make the call. Let's watch the movie and then we can talk more about it afterwards.
What is home and how to find home on this land? How do I make sense of myself as both an immigrant and a settler? And how do we, as queer diasporic Jews, make sense of ourselves on this land? They're not questions that I'm going to find answers to, and I don't need all the answers to begin this process.
Linke Fligl is a queer Jewish chicken farm and cultural organizing project building a radical diasporic Jewish future rooted in land, tradition, healing, and justice.
Linke Fligl is an experiment in nourishing queer Jewish-led land liberation alongside Black, Indigenous, and people of color land liberation.
Part of the story of Linke Fligl is the story of dreams colliding. Through a collaborative process of exploring these dreams, I purchased 181 acres and gifted it to what has become Wild Seed, an emerging collective of Black and brown folks building an intentional community and healing village. Then they offered us the use of 10 acres to explore our dreams of building a queer Jewish land project. Together, we came to an agreement that Linke Fligl would steward the land for 7 years in alignment with the Shemitah cycle, the Jewish tradition of letting the land rest every 7 years.
I myself always question, like, what does it mean to be home? Where do I feel home? Knowing Linke Fligl exists has been like, oh, I belong. I belong on land. Here's all the ways that we get to connect with spirit and land and community and song and dance and joy and our queerness all in one container. Like, wow, thank you for affirming all of that.
All of us have the right to belong to land and to feel what it means to be in that kinship, to have a sense of place and connection to the earth that sustains everything that we do.
What I've learned from Linke Fligl is that belonging is also a relationship of accountability and responsibility. How can we, as diasporic Jews, many of us as settlers on Turtle Island, find home while challenging white supremacy and settler colonialism and Zionism?
Part of what it means to be a settler on stolen land is to really sit in the contradiction and to sit in the discomfort of that reality. For me, part of healing that and part of being in right relationship is about participating in land reparations and being a part of teshuvah, repair for the harm that was done.
I've experienced Linke Fligl from inception to be rooted in this commitment to co-stewardship and reparations and redistribution of wealth as a diasporic people, to say we are going to practice relationship to land, and from the moment it being about how can we share the resource and relationships of this fertile valley that we're in, to be in solidarity with other communities.
I spent a week here basically just living off of the land a couple of summers ago and got to really just feel in my body like this is enough. There's enough potatoes in the ground, there's enough onions, there's enough shade, there's enough water. This is what I need. Anything more than that, I can give freely and happily. I don't need it.
Part of what I've noticed for myself and also just seen in our community is the ways that Jewish trauma patterns lead us to feel like we're all alone and that no one will have our backs. And for me, participating in land reparations is a practice of embodying in my bones, in my body, that the only way we're going to be free is through interdependence and that our liberation is bound up with all peoples.
One thing that I love about Judaism is that it is not just about the individual, it's about the communal. And so I think that participating in reparations is a way of participating not only in our personal healing, but in our communal healing, and that our communal healing is not only our own tribe of people, but our entire human and living being community.
Having a relationship to the land at Linke Fligl meant that I wasn't just practicing an anti-politic, but I was instead building toward something and building toward a world that felt more aligned with the way that I wanted to live on this planet. I know that the work that I do for the rest of my life will be impacted by that practice.
Another part of our unique offering is around taking these questions and moving not just from question but into practice.
The work of getting in right relationship isn't just logistic, isn't just intellectual, isn't just material or embodied, but it is spiritual. Having a spiritual container to do that work. I have learned through my relationship with Linke Fligl.
A Jewish phrase that often comes to me from the Mishnah, from Pirkei Avot, is Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. It's not upon you to finish the work, to finish the labor that you set out to do. V'lo ata ben chorin lehivatel mimena. And you are not a free person to nullify yourself, to desist, to hold back from at least starting it. That this journey of accountable land relationship and land healing for Indigenous people, for BIPOC communities, for queer and trans communities, Jewish and not Jewish, it's a lifelong process. It's not one that I expect to complete in my life.
Linke Fligl's relationship with land is rooted in solidarity with Black folks, people of color, and Native peoples. In our fundraising model, each person who supports Linke Fligl is asked to make a matching gift of equal or greater size to a BIPOC-led land liberation project in their own community. For us, this is a political act, a spiritual act, and a strategic move. With each dollar donated, queer Jews are investing in a collective future where all displaced peoples can find home on land.
We share the story of our relationship to this land as one complex example of Jewish land stewardship. It's not the right way, it's not the only way.
Something that we've learned through these 6 years at Linke Fligl is that we need to remember how to relate to the natural world. It's also not ours to claim.
Linke Fligl is such a beautiful example of trying to put values and the practices of reparations into action and modeling that for Jewish people and modeling that for anyone who comes in contact with this community. When we make things visible and put them in practice and other people see them, and it's the easiest way for people to learn, oh, I can do this.
It isn't just a theoretical conversation about should we or shouldn't we. It's like always, yes, we should, and we don't know how, but we're gonna try. Creates enough of a container where I feel more safe. Like I don't have to fight as hard on my own to belong in this space as a Jewish space as I do in some other Jewish spaces.
The underlying message I think that I have gleaned from Linke Fligl is that we are standing on abundance. The earth has way more to give than I could ever imagine. That we can reach deep into our pockets and move the money to places that we need it to go. And also have the most delicious Sukkot lunch and a celebration full of joy.
Awesome. Thank you all for being our first community of watchers of this film. Such an honor to share it with you, and we're really excited to hear how all the parts land. We're gonna go again into some little pair shares. We're excited to hear one, like, what's coming up for you now after watching the movie that maybe added to what you were thinking about when you were doing your land story? And what do you want to talk about with this group of people here at AMC 2022? What would be a question that you think would nourish this space? So take it or leave it, but that's what we're excited for you to talk about in your pairs, and we'll throw that in the chat once you are in your breakout rooms. And again, if for whatever reason you'd rather be in here reflecting solo, you are welcome to do so. Just again, like 5 minutes or something like that. Oh, Omi, can I type in the chat a broadcast question for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break. Hannah, it was so exciting to see you on a movie. You're famous. You're a movie star.
Me and you both, Megan, but you a little bit more so than me.
Howdy, partner Ollie. How are you feeling?
So good. I'm glad we got to unleash the movie magic onto the world. How are you?
So happy and very eager to hear what people think.
I know.
It's so vulnerable putting a thing out there.
We
Yeah,
made
how
a
are you
fatal
feeling?
flaw because we were in the movie. Because then they can't, I'm like, we weren't in it. You all could say whatever bad things you want. It would probably feel easier.
I just want to go back and capture the transcription glitches. Like
Oh my
that
gosh.
the first one for what I think queer diasporic Jews as the phrase had something with spark and something, it was really funny actually, you know, and I was like, oh, that's an amazing phrase. And I wanted to type it in, but the moment passed.
I know, it's really out of the many different things it thought Linke Fligl was also.
I saw Lincoln Fligl was very special.
Legal, something legal.
Legal
Yes.
Fligl.
Yeah, and I haven't worked with Vimeo a whole lot to know how to edit those manually once they're in, you know?
I know. We're in a whole journey of like, it's not quite done. And then we were like, we can't subtitle it yet, but so you just turned on auto subtitle in Vimeo? Is that what you did? Because I wasn't even expecting them to be there.
Oh, maybe that's what the gray box was Zoom trying to auto transcribe in competition with Vimeo.
Really?
Because I was looking, I was like, I don't want to click too many things and change the share window. Okay, I'm gonna close them to give them the 1 minute. Okay.
Dueling computers.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
curious
just
which one is more accurate.
the one on the video seemed more accurate than the Zoom in some cases, but there were times when it was different. It was better on the Zoom one because I was watching them side by side. And it's odd to me that the Zoom one was showing me text for my readout, but was showing a gray box for y'all's. And I wonder what the bottleneck was. I keep being fascinated by like all the accessibility conflicts and clashes. So we're just learning.
Yes. It makes me feel extra grateful for your support today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful.
Well, I've enjoyed hearing about the project. My children and I watched some of the webinars that Soulfire Farm put on the summer of 2020 that were so adorable. And we're working on our own rightful return of land and reparations work down here in the Texas area. And so it's nice to know what else is going on and definitely want to connect.
That's awesome. Where in Texas are you?
I'm in the Houston area.
Cool. My people are connected to like outside of Austin.
Yeah. And we're working with folks who are Karankawa and Karankawa Kadla and other intertribal groups. So they're around Corpus and San Antonio as well. There's some in Austin. I mean, displacement's real, right? So I think your folks are all back.
Welcome back, everybody. So we have open space now, and selfishly, and maybe also curiously, we really just want to hear from you all. What stands out from the movie? What are some connections in particular, maybe that non-Jewish folks in the room are making between your own land stories and the Linke Fligl land story? Yeah, but honestly, whatever you all want to talk about with this group of people and whatever you want us to know about that film, this is our time. We can use the chat. We can just unmute and jump in. We can support one another. Go for it. The floor is yours.
Okay, so I'll share something. So I'm a non-Jewish person, and I've been, my partner is Jewish, and I've been inspired by like just other kind of like radical things I've like gleaned from certain communities there, and that's why I wanted to watch this. It was really inspiring, especially in just thinking about my own desires to steward land, but to do it ethically and like equitably. And so it's just really cool to see a model like that. Something that stuck out to me. And this is something I got cut off saying in my breakout room, so I'll finish it out. Is that someone mentioned something about finding a sense of belonging, also having like a new responsibility attached to it. And that really struck me because I've been thinking about this idea of belonging a lot, or like what it's like to, what the sort of juxtapositions are between the own ways that I felt ostracized from certain communities, and on the other ways in which I have like privileges and ways where I appear to belong here to certain people, and how when you don't want to belong to the status quo because you are like not in agreement with the way that it's going, how there's like a loneliness in that too, and also a responsibility in that. So I don't really have like a tie in a bow thing about that, but it touched on something I've been thinking a lot about.
Thank you.
And thank you all for sharing, for making this film and doing this project.
I have a question. First of all, it's been really inspiring to hear about the project and to see the film. And I hope it'll be available to share with others at some point. And yeah, I'm in a process right now. My partner and I are just starting to steward a land project in Western North Carolina through a lens of repair and reparations, but we don't know what that will look like yet. And thankfully we have time to like build relationship and start to figure out what a transition of a land might look like, or co-ownership, or like lots of different possibilities. But I'm curious if you all are able to share a little bit more about the relationship with Wild Seed and that part of the story. And just curious more to hear more about that.
Maybe I'll let a few other folks. Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, there's a lot to say, and there's also the ways in which idiosyncrasies just are relational, and every story is different. And as Margot said in the movie, they met Naima, and Naima had plans and dreams, and relationships unfolded, which I feel like what's replicable, or what's like important from our model, is that we like tried to grow at the pace of relationships and followed relationships. And Margot's here, so if you want to add anything, you totally should. But also, maybe just want to give space for a few other.
You muted, Ollie.
I wanted to share a reflection. I just thought it was interesting how many people said like, finally, like a space where I'm not compromising any part of myself. And I don't know, I just thought that was really interesting, and like says a lot about the power of like outdoor experiences as well. Like not necessarily there being this synagogue institution that people are going to where they like feel seen. It's like actually more than that. It's like an expansive, like, look, we just put together these pieces and are bringing up these ideas, and people had space. So yeah, it's just cool to see that. I think it's like, I take for granted how rare it is in Jewish space for there to be like a place that a lot of people feel comfortable and want to be. So I'm Naomi.
I also just wanted to lift up, Nina said in the chat, I'm a non-Jewish person too, and I'm really sitting with a piece about Jewish trauma patterns and participating in reparations as a way to embody a new story, thinking about how that might apply to my people and the stories I'm carrying in my bones.
And Ollie wrote, thank you for the call to action, even when we don't know exactly what we are doing, but with commitment to be in good relation. Thank you all for this feedback. Unless there's any other burning questions, maybe we'll pass the mic to Margot if you want to talk a little bit about that relationship with Wild Seed, and then we'll move to close out for today. Take it away, Margot.
I'm curious what the question was, if somebody can repeat it.
I think Aiden's question, yeah, go for it, Aiden. Better from you than from me.
Yeah, well, I was like lucky enough to be in a breakout group with Margot and Ari and the third person who's there who I can't see. But yeah, but I just was curious to learn more about the relationship with Wild Seed, and anything that you want to share about that, including from kind of the start of the project and that relationship building to kind of like what that relationship has been like through the project.
Yeah, so I mean, as Ali kind of began to share, it really was like a merging of dreams and really was like a moment of like magic that it happened, and that I like met Naima in line to buy sweatpants at a music festival and asked her, we had met before, but I asked her what she thought about land reparations and her thoughts about it, and which was a kind of silly question to ask a stranger, but yeah, and then she shared, and then we began to deepen in our connection and explore the possibility of me buying this land to gift to them. And that was 6 years ago now. And yeah, it's been like a, oh, my computer's doing that weird thing. Yeah, it's been like a beautiful and complicated process. And I think like yeah, some of my learnings are like, I think we tried hard to like move at the pace of relationship, and also just realizing on the other side of it, just like what, like I was 25 or 26 at the time, I was just like kind of going with synchronicity and following that. And I think in reflection, it's like that was like a really, really big deal, like the thing we tried to do or trying to do. And like probably would have been good to like bring in like a lot more support earlier in. And yeah, and at the same time, feeling like really grateful that we followed that spark. And although it's not perfect, it's like paved the way for other things to be possible. So, you know, just kind of going back to the theme of this movie, like, and though we may not finish it, like, I definitely don't think the way we went about it was perfect or that I would do it again, but it was just like, kind of like what Megan, I think, said in the movie. It's like, we're just going to try, and then we're going to learn from that. Yeah.
Thanks, Margot, for your impromptu sharing. And thank you all for your questions and thoughts. Feel free to keep streaming them into the chat, but you know, we've gone on a long, disparate journey to many different places in our minds and together, and we just wanted to make sure to close out the space well. So if you will put on the slides, there's a little prompt we're going to use. This activity comes from another member of our cultural organizing team. It's the slide 10. That's our movie poster. Ida Asifa came up with this for us. And she was thinking about how to ask permission or like bring prayer into our relationships with land and entering and shifting lands that we leave and come to and greet, etc. So it's a very simple practice. It's a 3-line poem, 3 words per line. And hopefully we'll be able to play some music for you, and you can write your own greeting, dwelling, and leaving. And I will throw in the chat, it's okay, only we don't have to put that, I will put this link in, and you should all be able to, when you're ready, throw your poems onto this collective land prayer document where we've been keeping these prayers for a number of gatherings now, and then we'll read it. Any questions? Oh, collective sigh got played. That's exciting. Very short. But Megan, if you have a DJ thought.
What was the last thing? What did you just say? It was hard to hear over the music.
Yeah, totally. I just, in honor of ending on time, if folks want to transfer whatever you have, a word, a line, doesn't have to be finished, into the Google Doc, I put the link in the chat. And it would be lovely to just have our cascade of prayers as an ending. We can read them.
I only wish I had been able to fade the music. But
You're
now it's
so
something I'm going to
incredible.
look up for a next time.
Maybe as those prayers are streaming into the Google Doc, is there anyone who feels ready or interested in being our reader to close us out? Sarah, any chance you'd be willing to be our reader? I just missed the sound of your voice, but no
Oh.
pressure.
Me, Sarah? I hope I'm not
Mhm.
like assuming. Okay. Like, okay. Hello, my friend. Can I stay? Until next time. I see you. I'm listening. I'm learning. Here we are. Tend. Change is forever. Imagine boundaries dissolve. I am held. Gratitude, Earth teacher. Yeah, you start. Ha ha ha. See you later. Are you new or have we yet to meet?
Beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Angelique. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you'll have a delightful Allied Media Conference. What a treat to get to start this experience with you all. Have a great day.
Yeah, if folks want to connect with us, feel free to find us online for a movie screening, more questions. We have some more events this summer. We would love to connect with you, or if you have feedback about the workshop, really anything. We're really grateful to be with you. Thank you. And thank you, Megan, and everyone who helped make this possible.
Yay! Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Right, let me stop the recording.